medicine has shown impressive efficacy in an interim analysis as part of a first interim analysis of their phase 3 program. I want to stop there and pass on to my partner and co-leader, General Perma. Thank you.
Dr. Slawick, thanks. Great rundown as always. And just good afternoon to everybody as we get settled in right before the holidays. It's been a big week of delivery of vaccines. Over 7,800 deliveries by the end of tomorrow as we are delivering the 7.9 million doses of vaccine that were allocated for this week around the country. Really a tremendous feat. Yesterday morning, we allocated for next week's ordering 4.67 million, 2.67 of Pfizer, and 2 million of Moderna. Jurisdictions are working through the planning now, the micro planning, and then as early as tomorrow morning throughout the day, they can begin ordering for deliveries that will happen next week. So today, we've allocated 15.5 million doses of vaccine. And we are on track to allocate another 4.5 to 5 million next week, which will bring us to 20 million doses of vaccine allocated to America before the end of the year. We'll finish those deliveries in the first week of January, 4, 5, 6 January, to make sure that all those doses are available to the American people. We are learning some lessons as we go that I wanted to share with you. A tremendous Herculean task, work being done by Pfizer, Moderna, McKesson, UPS, and FedEx. We went with them because they are the best and they know how to do this. But at the volume and the scale of what we're doing every day, we are learning some things to help us just continue to get better every day. So as we figure out the pace for picking and packing vaccines and put them in boxes, making sure we do the right quality control, we've had to adjust our timelines. Just a mathematical problem to make sure we start at the right time and we finish in order to make the deliveries. We are working with the states in collaboration to make sure that we have a continuous contact with everybody who's receiving the vaccine, so that we can make sure that they know when the package is arriving or if the package will be late. We're confirming and always getting better at development of addresses to ensure that we know the right places to go to and there's no delay there. And we continue to grow in our efforts with the long-term care facilities as we enter and help them administer shots in volume. Really a terrific effort there, collaboration with all the states, and as we operationalize that task, we get better every day. And when I say we, I mean CVS and Walgreens, who are really doing terrific work. At the end of the day, we have had a handful of packages that we tried to deliver that were not destined for the right place, but we captured them before they were dropped off, and we rerouted them to the right place. And we had a couple of not missed shipments, but shipments that didn't go out on the right day. We wanted them to go out for delivery on Tuesday and delivery on Wednesday. And so we had to work through our after actions report and get that corrected. Really tremendous work being done at the tactical level, at the worker level, to make sure they understand how to do this. Again, reminder, over the last 2 weeks, we've done over 10,000 shipments to different locations, and really pretty impressive. And so I just passed to you that we're learning, we're getting better, and every day we're getting stronger. Our goal is we come out of the holidays, we're in a steady drumbeat of continuous vaccine delivery. We want it to be even smoother every single day. So good job so far. Continue to do better as we go. We're working now, we're talking to the jurisdictions / states on the delivery of the second dose. Remember, we've talked about we're delivering the first dose of the 2-dose regimen, and we've been holding on to the second dose. We did that to make sure that the supply chain was sufficient to ensure the second dose was there. Well, Pfizer vaccine started being distributed last week, and it'll be time for that vaccine to start going out to the American people next week. So we've established an elaborate communication strategy at all levels to make sure everybody's tracking this. We've worked through different levels of teaching and instructions on how to make sure we're doing that and everybody's informed. We know how to do this. America knows how to do this. We've done second doses before. What we're just trying to reinforce is that the second dose availability and time to order it for it to be distributed down and prepare for second shots the week of 4 January. So we're ahead of the curve, and it's about communications, open, transparent, and collaborative to ensure our success. So I will close this year, the year here, this week's briefing on behalf of Dr. Slaoui and I. We normally say thanks to all the men and women serving around the world and their families in defense of our great country. But both of us would just like to say thank you to the men and women who are on the front lines, right, in our hospitals, emergency rooms, ICUs, right? The doctors, the nurses, the people that support them 24/7, really, truly on the front lines, and our hats are off to everything they do. So with that said, I just want to say Happy New Year's and Merry Christmas to everybody, and on behalf of Dr. Slaoui and I. So please, questions.
Great, thank you very much. All right, so that will begin the question and answer session. If you do have a question, you may dial *1, unmute your phone, and record your name and media outlet clearly. It is required to introduce you. If you would like to withdraw the question, you can dial *2. Again, it's *1. And our first question here will come from Dan Vergano with BuzzFeed News. Dan, your line is now open.
Thank you. Dan Vergano at BuzzFeed News, and happy holidays, guys. Dr. Slaoui invited us to ask him about his views on unblinding the clinical trials at an earlier session. I was wondering, does he have a view on whether the Moderna one should be unblinded in the way they want, or more like the Pfizer vaccine, or perhaps in the double blinding fashion that was advocated at the VRBPAC meeting? Thanks very much.
Thank you for the question. Well, my personal view is I think it's very important that we unblind the trial at once and offer the placebo group to receive vaccines regardless of their risk level for a number of reasons. I think the most important is that these men and women volunteers have been instrumental and critical in helping us develop these vaccines, and they should be rewarded for it rather than, in a way, punished for it by, for instance, being delayed in receiving the vaccine as a number of times has been proposed. And secondly is the Pfizer approach, which I think is intellectually a very elegant and appropriate one. Practically is a very difficult one, because in real life, every state of our 50 states is going to make a different decision in terms of priorities within the groups, Group 1 or Group 2, for instance. And therefore, the companies and the clinical trial sites are going to be scrambling to appropriately provide the vaccine to the right subpopulation within each state. And then the third reason, which I think is also very important, is that there are vaccine doses that have been planned for this. Their stability lifespan is limited. By not immunizing the full population at this stage, we are going to lose the opportunity of using these vaccine doses, which are different than the vaccine doses that are being distributed, and different, simply different batches, and they are not counted as part of the EUA doses. They are part of the clinical trial material. And we would lose the opportunity to immunize quite a sizable number of individuals without competing with the rest of the population. And all of this, if we do it, should incent more people to participate in the upcoming clinical trial or ongoing clinical trials, because it will remain true probably for the next 2 to 3 months that participating in a clinical trial is a faster way to access vaccine than otherwise. That's my opinion. We'll see what the FDA and what the companies ultimately will decide. Thank you for the question. Next question.
Thank you. Our next question here will come from Tom Howell with Washington Times. Tom, your line is now open.
Hey, thanks for doing the call. Can you give us an update on the long-term care facility partnership with CVS and Walgreens? How many sites have they reached so far, and what kind of impact do you expect this effort to have on mortality rates since nursing homes have been hit so hard by the pandemic? Thank you.
So I can answer the first part. I'm not qualified to answer the second part. So we've been in 12 states, 238 facilities have been executing this week, and really tremendous effort in getting everybody done. I mean, Walgreens and CVS are being received by cheering crowds, and they're operationalizing their efforts to make sure everybody gets the shots, et cetera. Really important to note, it is a big effort, as there's 70,000 total. I see us multiplying capability and capacity every day as we go, and more vaccine becomes available. For example, we already know that next week that we are going to be in close to 13 additional states with another 1,000 facilities that will start to enter. And every week we're just building on that as we go. Remember, it's based on the governor's state's plans, right? As they're working through both frontline healthcare workers and then the long-term healthcare facilities. So it's a mix in the strategies, and we're enabling their plans.
As regard the second question, part of the question, the vaccines, whether they're Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine, achieve their maximum level of efficacy within 14 days of the immunization, and then with the second dose, probably that immunity is further reinforced and prolonged in terms of its persistence. Of course, we did not have an outcome on prevention of death, but we did have an outcome in both trial on prevention of severe disease, 100% for both vaccines, and I think it's reasonable to assume that will translate into prevention of death. And therefore, within 2 weeks from starting to immunize subjects that are living in long-term care facilities, we should start to see a decrease in the overall mortality in the country, given that the last time I looked, about 50%, unfortunately, of the total death toll associated with the pandemic came from those populations. The priority should be to maximize the number of individuals that are immunized in the long-term care facilities if we want to decrease the death toll associated with the pandemic. Clearly, these are decisions that are ultimately made at the state level. There are enough vaccine doses to immunize the more or less 3 million individuals that are living in such facilities at this stage. Thank you. Next question, please.
Thank you. Our next question here will come from Rachel Rubin with Politico. Your line is now open.
I was wondering if you guys could give an update on the allergic reactions in the Pfizer vaccine. One, if you have a total of how many reactions there have been and in how many states, and also if there's any more information about what the reaction is to. And also just real quick on the syringes, since there can be extra doses, are you guys sending extra syringes in the ancillary kits? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I'll take the first part and then the ancillary kit, maybe General Perna can address. In terms, so I have not had an update today. Yesterday, there were 6 cases on a denominator that we know is lagging, by 2 to 3 days. Today's denominator is about 1 million subjects immunized. It may very well be substantially more than that. That frequency, as it stood yesterday, is superior to what one would expect with other vaccines. We would have expected in the range of maybe one person having an allergic reaction, anaphylactic reaction, as it has occurred with the Pfizer vaccine. I'm unaware of any reports associated at this stage with the Moderna vaccine. In regard of what's happening, there are discussions with the companies in the NIH to consider running clinical trial in highly atopic, very allergic subjects that, for instance, have to carry an EpiPen with them all the time or have very significant non-atopic reactions, to immunize them with this vaccine and potentially other vaccine and compare the rate of reactions, but also critically be able to harvest, serum and blood cells, etc., to analyze their immune status prior and potentially after such reactions may happen, if they happen. I think that's really the way to try to understand exactly the mechanism. What is it that's provoking these reactions? Is it a true anaphylactic shock? I think we're not clear if that's the case. Is it a mast cell degranulation, which is one of the ways by which we can have this kind of reaction? It's associated with the fact that we have particles that are injected. Is it something else? Is it antibodies to the polyethylene glycol or PEG, as it's known? In which case, this may be different from one vaccine to the other because they're using different format of the PEG. These are all important scientific questions that could be addressed into this clinical trial. It's being discussed as a priority because clearly time is important, but at the same time, we will continue to monitor this reaction. Now, 6 cases out of 300,000 or 1 million subjects immunized, I think, while important to understand, still does not change the safety profile of this vaccine, particularly now that we know that those reactions can happen, and therefore immunization sites are equipped with the right medicines and interventions to help subjects if and when they have such reactions. I'll pass on to General Perna in regard of the ancillary packs and the, I assume it's the 6 dose per vial question.
So with respect to the ancillary kits in support of the vaccine in your question, the 6 dose, if available, we put extra capability in the kits, right, so that we would have an overage just a little naturally, as well as combining most of the administration going on right now is in major hospitals, et cetera, where they have access to syringes and needles accordingly. We have adjusted our contract and our construction of the kits to be to even provide even more capability as we go forward. If they choose to, if 6 doses still continues to be available down the road. So feel very comfortable with the availability of syringes and needles and our ability to put these kits together and continue the simultaneous distribution of the kits with the vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question here will come from Angelica Levito. Angelica, your line is now open.
Hello, this is Angelica Levito from Bloomberg News. Question for you, General Perna. What do you make of the fact that about 1 million of the 9 million available doses have been administered so far? And are there any actions the federal government can take if you feel like the vaccination is moving too slowly?
So I'll start, and I think maybe Dr. Slaoui might be able to help me a little bit as we go. First of all, I think it's a very good pace as we observe. We know the states have a very, all of them have a very good plan. It's a, it's a deliberate plan. It's about access to the vaccine when it arrives and then execution. And we feel very strongly that they really have set up and they're immunizing quite a bit of people. As Dr. Slawi mentioned earlier, there's a lag in the information as it's collected from all the really thousands of administration sites. And we know that there's probably at least 72 to 96 hour lag in the information uptake. With that said, we are in collaboration. We talk every single day with jurisdictions to make sure that we're facilitating their plans and where best to add capability and capacity to help them, either through maybe pharmacies or extended use of distribution sites. So I do believe that'll progress here quickly as the two things come together. But Dr. Slawi, anything to add to that?
I think you covered it. You covered it very well, General Perna. I think it's important that the states are able to increase the cadence of immunization, but it's also important that they do it at a pace where they are in control and that no mistakes are made or no accidents are happening. That's super important, particularly at the start. And we are, of course, here to hear their asks and specific demand in how we can help them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Special.
Operator, next question, please.
Thank you very much. Our next question here will come from Peter Loftus. Your line is now open, Peter.
Hi, it's Pete Loftus from the Wall Street Journal. In the past, you've talked about, I think, getting to 100 immunizations by the end of February or by March, and that in the second quarter, I think anyone who wants one could get vaccinated. But I'm wondering how you get there. Is it with increasing supplies of these first two vaccines, or does it depend upon the introduction of a third or even a fourth vaccine?
I'll take that. So the 100 million immunizations can be achieved with the 200 million doses of vaccine for Moderna and Pfizer that both companies are committed to deliver between now and the end of the month of March. Immunization is completed after 2 doses, and there are approaches where we may be able to accelerate the delivery of the doses to the middle of the month of March. The full immunization may actually depend to be achieved by the month of March, depending on whether there are delays in the delivery of the last doses from Moderna or Pfizer. Could depend on the approval of the Janssen's vaccine. As I said in my introduction, that's a 1-dose vaccine. We have completed recruitment in the study. There are cases accruing, very significant number of cases. It's very likely that there will be an analysis, maybe either an interim analysis or a final analysis on efficacy. We are very hopeful, based on the efficacy observed after 1 dose with the messenger RNA vaccine, that high efficacy will also be achieved with this vaccine. But of course, we need to wait for the data and see that in effect. And that may very well allow for an emergency use authorization filing in the end of the month of January or early February. And we're working hard with the company to make sure that vaccine doses that are actually produced and that will be physically there and filled in the month of February can actually be released from a regulatory standpoint because of the facilities in which they are produced or finished. And that's work that's ongoing with the FDA as we speak and J&J. If that was to be achieved, that can be quite a significant contribution to the vaccination of the population in the month of February and then even more in the month of March. So I think the likelihood that 100 million people will be immunized by the end of the first quarter of 2021 are very high. And then the second 100 million options that we now executed with Moderna and with Pfizer should allow in itself to immunize another 100 million individuals during the second quarter of the year 2021. In addition, J&J, Janssen's vaccine can significantly further increase that number. And, we'll see what the AstraZeneca trial brings. That's very likely to read out and allow for an emergency use authorization probably end of February or early in March. And then probably more in April, we'll have an EUA of the Novavax vaccine, and maybe in May, an emergency use authorization of the Sanofi vaccine. This is how we plan. There's a significant redundancy as we start the second quarter to achieve the next 200 million vaccinees. And as I said last time, about 80 million of the population is below the age of 18. For those indication at this stage, only the 16 to 18 years of age is approved for the Pfizer vaccine, and trials are ongoing with Moderna and actually also with the Janssen's vaccine. And those may actually go somewhat later into the summer because their approval may be slightly later. Thank you.
Operator, we have time for 2 more questions.
Great, thank you very much. Our next question here will come from Erica Edwards with NBC News. Erica, your line is now open.
Hi, thank you so much. It's Erica Edwards with NBC News. I'm hoping you can clarify something. And I apologize if Dr. Slaoui addressed it. His audio is a little bit garbled. I don't know if there's any way to fix that. But if I understood correctly, the original projection was to vaccinate 20 million people by the end of this year. It seems like 20 million vaccines will be delivered, which is different from actual shots in arms. Is there now a change in the projection for how many people will indeed be given that first dose by the within the next week or so? Thank you.
Dr. Slaoui, go ahead.
The commitment that we can make is to make vaccine doses available and released to give at least the first shot of the vaccine, because by definition the second dose was going to fall in the month of January, obviously. And I think that commitment is met. Exactly how fast the ramp up of immunization, so shots in arm, is happening is slower than we thought it would be. And as I said earlier, we're here to help the states to accelerate that appropriately. So that objective is not met is unlikely to be met. 20 million people with a shot in arm, maybe we'll be surprised.
Yeah, we'll have them allocated before the end of the month, as Dr. Slaoui said, and then the last 5 million will be delivered the first week in January, and then uptake from there. So really, I think strong message in that we're getting the vaccines out as fast as they are available. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question here will come from Candace Troy. And Candace, your line is now open.
Hi, Dr. Slaoui, can you clarify what is being explored for the Moderna dosage? Is the idea that people would only be given 1 dose possibly? And how quickly will you know, how soon will you know if that's possible? And is that being explored for Pfizer as well?
Well, as I expressed a few more other times, I think giving a 1-dose vaccine is totally inappropriate at this stage. Why? Because the data we have generated is with 2 doses. We know that the second dose increases the strength of the immune response about 10 times in terms of antibody response. We know that memory is installed much stronger, in a stronger way after a second dose. The immune system is designed to learn the first time it sees an antigen and then to really burst when it sees it again. That's exactly what we do when we give 2 doses, and then we give boosters every year, every 2 years, every 5 years. That's how the immune system is designed to work. And therefore, pursuing a one-dose strategy with something where the half-life is short is I think, something that should be tested experimentally, not inferred, because we see protection for 14 days or 7 days in the Moderna or the Pfizer trial. And by the way, that's exactly the question we're asking with the Janssen's vaccine. And in particular, I think I said that before, the Janssen's vaccine, its biology is such that actually the immune response continued to go up even after 90 days after immunization, in contrast to almost all protein and messenger RNA vaccines. Now, what we are exploring is to take advantage of that second dose, very significant boost of the response, and decrease the immunization dose. And you can achieve, again, twice the quantity of vaccine, volume of vaccine we have, by giving 2 doses of 50 micrograms, for instance. And in phase 2 trials of the Moderna trial, for instance, the data obtained have suggested that the 50 microgram dose and the 100 microgram dose are substantially equivalent, particularly in people that are not very old. And therefore, that is an avenue that's being explored and discussed with the company and with the regulators. On that, I'd like to, in the name of all people in the operation, thank all the people into the operation that have participated, the thousands or tens of thousands of people in the manufacturing sites, in the laboratories, in the various agencies, in the private companies, Moderna, Pfizer, J&J, AstraZeneca, Novavax, Sanofi, and GSK, but also all the manufacturing companies, and critically, now well over 100,000 subjects that have volunteered into the clinical trials that are ongoing into the US. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody, and we look forward to significant progress being made between now and our next opportunity to brief you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the call today. Please direct any unanswered questions to media@hhs.gov and have a happy holidays. Thank you very much.